All right, so we're going to be factoring, and we'll spend today and tomorrow on factoring. Today we're going to talk about GCF, factor by grouping, which is really just GCF, and factoring common meals. Factoring is one of those things that you've seen several times, but a lot of people still struggle with it. So, to factor out a GCF, you're looking for the greatest common factor. So with a polynomial, you're going to look at two things. You're going to look at the coefficients, and then you're going to look at the variables. So if I look at the coefficients for this problem, I have a 9, an 18, and a 27. The GCF, the biggest number that will divide into those three numbers, is 9. The biggest number I can divide those three numbers by is 9. All right, and then you look at the variables. Everybody has an x, and you take out the smallest amount. The smallest amount of x's is going to be the GCF. So you have 4, 3, 2. So your GCF will have an x squared. So because 9, 18, and 27 are all divisible by 9, and because x to the fourth, x to the third, and x squared can all be divided by x squared without getting a negative exponent, that's going to be our GCF. All right, so then you see what would I multiply that by to get the original problem back? Because when you think factors, like factors of 12 or 2 times 6. So factors are things that multiply to get the original problem back. So to find the other factor, once you know this first one, your GCF, you just think, what do I multiply this by to get this? Well, 9 times 1, and then x squared has to multiply by x squared to get x to the fourth. All right, to get this guy, 9 times 2 is 18, so 9 times negative 2 is negative 18, and you have to multiply by an x to get to your x to the third. All right, and then on that last term, 9 times 3 is 27, and you don't need to multiply by any x's because it's already the right one. All right, and that's all there is to it. You're done. All right, so number 2, you've got a 14, a 35, and a 28. Those three numbers are all divisible by 7. You have an x to the 6th, an x to the 4th, and an x squared. So again, the smallest number of x's we have is 2. If this had been an x to the 3rd, we would have taken out 3 here, but we're going to just divide out x squared. All right, so your GCF is 7x squared. So we're thinking 7 times what is 14? 7 times 2. How many x's do I need to get back to 6? I have 2, I need 4 more. 7 times 5 will give me 35, and I need 2 x's to get back to x to the 4th. And then for the last term, 7 times negative 4 gives me negative 28, and my x's are already what they need, so I don't need to multiply by any. All right, factor by grouping, we're going to group and then take out GCFs. So the first thing we do when we're told to factor by grouping, I don't know why there's a random 9 over here. Let's delete that. Okay, now back to what I was saying. We're going to group our terms. When we have 4 terms, we factor by grouping, and we just group the first 2, and we group the second 2. All right, so for the first 2, what's the GCF of just these 2 terms? Well, they don't have numbers in both of them, but they do both have x's, so I take out the smallest, which is x squared. To go from x squared to x to the 3rd, I need another x. To go from x squared to negative 2x squared, I have to multiply by negative 2. All right, for the next group, looking at these 2 terms, those are both divisible by 5. I need to multiply by x to get to 5x, and I got to multiply by negative 2 to get to negative 10. All right, so now you're looking at something that has weird terms. You've got this term and this term, and if you see, both of them have this matching parenthesis. So we're now going to take out the parenthesis as the GCF, and if I just had x minus 2, I would have to multiply by x squared to get that first term, and multiply by 5 to get that second term. And I'm done. All right, next, same thing. We're going to, I cannot get this to work. Okay, group the first 2 and group the back 2 We're using orange this time. I need to calibrate my pen, but it doesn't really calibrate very well for some reason. Okay, so for those first two, 4 and 24 are both those divisible by 4, and I can take out x squared because that's the smallest. All right, so I don't have to multiply by anything on the numbers, but I need another x. Here, I'm going to have to multiply by a 6. And the x's are already what they need to be. All right, so now for the back two, what do negative 2 and negative 12 have in common? A negative 2. I can divide them both by negative 2. If this is a negative, we're always going to put a negative here. They do not both have an x, so I can't take an x out. So I need to multiply by x to get back to negative 2x. And I'm going to multiply by a positive 6. If negative 2 is going to multiply to get negative 12, it's got to multiply by a positive 6. All right, so again, you have these matching parentheses. So x plus 6. And then to multiply to get this guy back, we need a 4x squared and a minus 2. All right, so that's GCF and factor by grouping. Next we have, can we factor a trinomial? So remember, trinomial means 3 terms. So we're going to factor quadratic trinomials, meaning the biggest exponent is going to be a 2. And it has 3 terms. You always factor trinomials into 2 binomials, which just means you need 2 parentheses. All right, so I'm going to try to color code to help you follow what I'm doing. There's like a box method that you could have been taught by another teacher. There's different ways to factor, but they all kind of boil down to, can you factor by guess and check? It's just a different way of doing it. So guess and check is what I teach. There are videos under resources in Google Classroom of other people teaching how to factor, so you can watch those if you need more help, and you can ask me and I can show you another method or try to help you with this method if you're not understanding after we get finished with these 6 problems. Okay, so here we go. You're always going to pick numbers to multiply in the front to get the first term. So to get 3x squared, I have to multiply 3x times 1x. All right, then we pick numbers we know are going to work to multiply in the back of the parentheses to get this back number. So to get negative 2, I need a negative 2 and a positive 1, or a positive 1 and a negative 2. So let's see. We'll just put negative 1, positive 2, and see if it works. And when I say see if it works, we have forced it to give us a 3x squared and a negative 2. But we still have to check to see if this middle term is going to work out. And we check that by multiplying the outsides and then multiplying the insides. And you can see that I'm going to get 5x, not negative x. So what that means is that I didn't put my numbers in the right place, or I picked wrong numbers. So on this one, we didn't have other numbers to pick. So if I switch those, and then we'll see what happens. All right, so we'll put the 2 here and the 1 here. So now we have a 3x and a negative 2x. All right, so that's going to give me positive 1x. I need it to be negative, but if I switch these signs, then that works out. So that means I just have to switch my signs up here, and I'm right. So it's called guess and check. You're going to have to use pencil because you're not going to get it right the first time every time. You're going to have to go back. But once you know that the middle term works out, then you are done and you can move on. All right, so next problem. We need to multiply to get 4x squared in the front. So you can choose 4x and 1x or 2x and 2x. And again, until you get really good and can think a couple of steps ahead of yourself, you just pick one and see if it works. All right, so let's go with 4x and 1x. All right, now we need to pick numbers that multiply to get 15, positive 15. So let's say 5 and 3. All right, we're multiplying to get a positive, and we're going to add to get a positive. So we know they're both going to be pluses. All right, so now we have to check, is that middle term going to work out? Am I going to get my 16x? Well, here we get 12, and here we get 5. So I don't believe I got there. I got to 17. All right, so instead of erasing everything and just completely starting over, let's think. If we switch and put a 5 here, there's a 5 there, a 3 here and a 5 there, that would be 20 and 30. That's not going to work. So I'm thinking maybe we should change our x's to 2 and 2. All right, so let me erase some of my work. I need a bigger eraser. And we're going to change this to 2 and 2. All right, so back to the pen, back to red. We want 2 and 2. All right, so now let's check on that middle term. Here we're going to get 6x. Here we're going to get 10x. That gives me my 16. So I'm done. Put a box around it. Move on. All right, number 7. We know we need 2 parentheses. These are the easy ones because we know it's x and x. There's no other choice. All right, for 14, you do have choices. 1 and 14 are 7 and 2. But if these numbers are 1s, then you just think about the factors of this guy that are going to give you this guy. So 7 and 2. And then as far as signs, if this is going to multiply to get a positive, 7 and 2 are either going to be both positive or both negative. If I want to try to add to get a negative, that means they have to be negative. And then again, always double check that your middle is going to work out. And once you know that it will, put a box around your answer, do a little happy dance, move on. All right, so let's try another one. All right, so we need to pick numbers that multiply to get 9x squared. So do we want 9 times 1 or 3 times 3? I'm going to go with 3 times 3. We'll see if it works. And then we need numbers that multiply to get a negative 4. So positive 1, negative 4. All right, so then let's see if we worked out. So I'm going to do this without writing it down and see if you follow. If I multiply these, I get negative 12. If I multiply this, I get 3. Well, negative 12 plus 3 is not 5. So you have choices. What is it you want to switch? I'm going to say, let's try making these a 9 and a 1. And at this point, you're just making educated guesses. You know that you're getting some things right. You're trying to see if you can make the others right. I know what the answer is because I've been factoring for like 25 years. But I'm trying to not get it right the first time every time because then you won't see what the process really is. All right, so outsides give us negative 4x. Insides give us positive 9x. That gives us the 5x that we want. So we are done with number 8. All right, number 9. Let's see, what do we think multiplies to get 64? First thing that comes to mind is 8 times 8. Multiply to get a 1, the only option is 1 times 1. You want it to multiply to get a positive, end up with a negative, so they both need to be negative. All right, so we get negative 8x and negative 8x, and that's negative 16x squared. All right, so you see how we have the same thing twice? Sometimes the back of the book is going to write it like that. Okay, so either one of those is acceptable for me. But if you have the same thing twice, you can write it as that thing squared. All right, last one. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, why does it have extra variables? It's really not that bad. All right, in the beginning, we need, what, maybe 3x and 2x to get 6x squared? For the back, your only choice is 5y and 1y. All right, it's negative, so that's the tricky part, is where do you put the signs? Well, just pick something, negative, positive. All right, so is the middle going to work out? Well, when we multiply these, we get 3xy. We multiply these, we get negative 10xy. So that does give me my negative 7xy. So we are done. All right, so those are the examples that we have of those three kinds of factoring. Again, there are more videos under resources. I think it's called factoring resources. Maybe it's called factoring videos. But in Google Classroom under resources, there are some more videos of each type of factoring. So watch those. Email me for some more help. I'm happy to help if you need it. This is your assignment. Again, let me know if you have questions.